And I think it is so poignant that we conclude in a temple basement, walking through a construction zone. Because everything we've talked about since January has been about how groups of people who shared a common faith, common religious beliefs, gathered together, found a space, and built a house of worship. This temple will dedicate their new worship space in June. We are walking through their construction zones. You are experiencing history in the making. And hopefully, in 50 or 100 years, the Troy Historical Society will gather in this old, seasoned temple once again to hear the story that we're going to hear tonight. Would you please thank the people of this temple and welcome my friend Padre Pupa.
Because I love history, and also because I love Lorraine. Tell me, how many of you are here because you love Lorraine? So obviously I've lived in Troy for about 13 years, a little less than 13 years. When Lorraine approached me, I serve as outreach chair for the Parthia Temple, which means I get to tell people when they come in what we use different spaces for. This is their sanctuary, this is the dining hall, this is our multi-purpose hall. I also get to tell people a little bit about the basics of Hinduism because they're curious. Why do you wear a dot on your head? Why do you wear that outfit? Not this, because I'm coming straight from work. Why do you say namaste, which is the traditional Hindu greeting? So I didn't know the history. I lived the history. I grew up in New York. I was 4 years old. I took a lot longer journey than you did to come into this temple. 2 flights. My mother didn't know very well how to speak English. And then she arrived here in 1970 with me because my father had arrived as part of the wave of immigration that arrived after 1965. America always brings in people depending on the era of people that they need. In the early 1900s, it was people for the factories. In the late 60s, many people, like the people who built this temple, came here to go to graduate school, to be doctors, engineers, and professionals in the new knowledge-based economy that was forming in the United States in the late 60s. So they got here, they first got their educations, their jobs, had their families, and once they had their families, they needed a place to worship. And so I was in Queens, Flushing on the 4th of July, right? See, and it's almost like goosebumps for me thinking about this. In New York, I was going through the same thing that everyone here went through. They consecrated the temple. They laid the foundation stones for these sacred spaces in different parts of the country where there were large populations of Hindu immigrants or Indian immigrants, because India is where the majority of Hindus live. So I didn't know the history of this temple, so I asked a very dear friend who I've known, who is a wonderful speaker. She's a former kindergarten teacher, so I knew she'd do a good job of explaining the basics of someone like me to know what actually happened. So I have a PowerPoint. I'm going to switch over, but I think we need to get, like I said, I'm from New York, so I'm loud. But Shukla is we're going to get her a mic because we want to videotape this for people who didn't get to come here tonight. Shukla has been a resident of Michigan, like I said, since 1969. She has a master's degree in English from Jadavpur University in India. She got a master's degree in education from Oakland University, as well as teaching certification. And she taught in Utica Community Schools and retired last June. Temple is very, very lucky to have her. She's been associated with the Temple since the beginning, and so she has been chairperson of education. We have different committees. She'll talk about all the different committees that she's served on, and she was president of the executive committee in 99 and 2000. And she's been on the board of trustees, one time as vice chair, and currently she's a member of the religious committee.
I still remember, I did not attend the meeting, but I still remember hearing it. We had a gentleman who was doing a radio show on WPON. And from there, it was being broadcast at that time. So I remember listening to that. My son was only 3 years old. and hearing about the meeting and what happened at the meeting and how it was decided that we will build a temple. How it was going to be done at that point, we didn't know. So an ad hoc committee of 7 people was started, and they set up to work on a draft, first of all, of a constitution and bylaws, because they figured that we could not operate without that. In India, the temples are usually constructed and operated by, in the olden days, kings and maharajas. But in the newer days, a very wealthy family, very rich industrialist will build a temple and donate enough money for its maintenance. Of course, we couldn't do that here. So the ad hoc committee, first of all, had to do a bylaws and constitution. And then it was decided that that should serve as the mission and vision of the temple, that it should be a cultural and religious, it should serve the needs of the cultural and religious needs of our community. And the constitution and bylaws was adopted on March 21st, 1975. They met in the Kingsley Inn. If you recall, there was the Kingsley Inn on the Woodward. Now it's gone now. And then there were 200 families. And it was a fundraiser. And these 200 families made a generous donation and pledge of $140,000. That was a lot of money back then, right? And then site selection committee was formed, and they located this corner plot. And this 18 acres was selected because not only it was in the northwest corner of Troy, but it is adjacent to Avon, Auburn Hills, and Bloomfield Township, and Rochester. So most of the people were living in this area at that time. So the members elected to purchase the land outright for the sum of $70,000. And then master plans and detailed plans were approved to build a temple with a budget of $500,000 at that time. Okay? And the idea was to approximately accommodate about 300 to 400 people. Thus, the Bharatiya Temple became a landmark in the bicentennial project for the Asian Indian people of the Detroit area. When we say Bhumi Puja means ground consecration, we do a groundbreaking ceremony as well as do a special religious rite to consecrate the grounds before you can start. And it was under guidance of one of our holy men who came here, and he has participated many times. He has since passed away. And we also had a very knowledgeable Professor T.K. Venkateswaran. We miss him very dearly. He was a guide not only for all our religious teachings, he taught us many times over the years, and he also was part of this consecration. Now, once it was consecrated, donation came pouring in. People were excited that we are going to finally have a temple here. So we didn't think at that time $500,000 could be raised, but it was raised. And then in 1978, the temple obtained a zoning change from the city of Troy, okay, and allowing us to locate our temple. And it was a little bit of important to know that this is in a residential area. All around us are very affluent residential properties. So that was an important achievement for us. Next year, the sewer, the water, the gas lines were brought in. Plans for the temple were drawn up and submitted to the city of Troy for approval. Bids were obtained for the construction, and Michael P. James Company was awarded the contract to build the temple. And again, the groundbreaking ceremony took place on June 1, 1980. Again, graced by some of our well-known holy men and our gurus, so to speak. And on October 2, which is an important date for us, October 2, 1980, the construction was started. And why is it October 2 important? Because it is Mahatma Gandhi's birthday, right? So that was important for us to choose that date. And we got a construction loan from Michigan National Bank to start the construction. This loan was an unusual accomplishment in itself because, our temple was not yet an established congregation. We were just meeting, as I said, in the basements or an Unitarian church, I believe, before this building was built. So then, on July 19th, 1981, again, a couple of the names won't make any sense to you, but these two important people who are spiritual guides came here to inaugurate the temple. At this stage, the temple had a prayer hall upstairs and a dining hall, this one, and a kitchen. Now, the kitchen and this dining hall wasn't this big. It was a little bit smaller. And I'll explain to you what happened then. The next milestone for the temple, the important thing for us to know, and I get very emotional when I think about it, when we first opened the doors to the temple, the congregation was small. During the weekdays, even on the Sundays, some of the Sundays, we didn't have very many attendees. And at that time, we still didn't have a priest. So many of us took turns in keeping the doors open. And I remember another friend of mine, we would come and we had the keys, we'll open the doors, we'll come and do the prayers. We didn't have our deities installed at that time, but we'll keep it going. We'll sing our prayers in the evening, and so we could have anybody who could come in, and offer their prayers and they go back. So we kept the doors open in the evenings as well as in the morning, as well as Saturdays and Sundays. So these are a lot of volunteer works, and that's another thing I'll touch on later on, because volunteers are the backbones of this temple. Okay, next milestone for the temple was installation of the deities. Lord Vishnu, Goddess Lakshmi, Lord Ganesh, and Lord Hanuman. And Dr. Balaram Murthy will talk about some of this later on. These were specially made in India in white marble. And, shipment is a big headache. We're finding out again right now. But it arrived in time. And on November 19, 1983, Sri Janaki Ram Shastri, who is our head priest, as Padma said, came over and helped us consecrate. And we have to go through a special religious ceremony to do that. And then we call it Prana Pratishtha, which means consecration of the deities. And we, since then, we had more attendance because we had the deities here to worship. After that, the facilities were improved. The parking lot was paved, security and alarm systems were brought in, landscaping, and the kitchen was improved. In 1986, Janaki Ram Shastri at that point was with another association, and so he was hired to come and join our temple. And he provided a much needed services for both the temple and the people who were living in this area, because he was helping them go through the rituals, especially the last rites, for example. Okay? And we have other several religious rites that are very important to us, and he was helping. He was going to the people's home to provide those services. Then mortgage was paid up, and the congregation grew by leaps and bounds. And that mortgage was something we were so thrilled to get paid up. In 1988, when the temple directory was published, the first temple directory was published, I think. It was hoped, and I looked back and I found that directory, and it said that there would be construction of classrooms in the future, lighting for the parking lot, improvements to the stage and deity area. When you go to take the tour, you'll see up there is a little bit of stage area. And once upon a time, the dance or any other theaters or children's programs used to be held there before this was built. That area was built. So that was improved. And there was a hope for we will have priest quarters so the priests can stay here, and a library and a sports facility. And also the ambition was to install a temple spire. As you see, this is the modern structure, and the structure is simple. Then also the hope was to have a multi-purpose hall that will hold about 1,000 people. Right. So we were ambitious, very. So in 1989, after a lot of thinking, it was decided to expand the facilities, because by that time we found that there wasn't enough space upstairs when we had big programs. People were standing in the hallway, standing in the back. It was jam-packed. So it was decided that we have to expand. And so after a lot of thinking, it was decided that we should. Once again, we went back to the drawing board and drew up plans to expand. And August 18, 1990, Bhumi Puja was done. Again, the ground consecration was done for the expansion. And the funds were then raised. Again, we started having annual fundraising dinners long time back. We used to have it outside in the, where the Charlie's Crab is, and I remember going there. But now, the idea was that we should have a big enough facility to hold our own fundraising dinner on the premises. So the fundraising was done and construction was started. The main prayer hall was expanded backwards, and the multi-purpose hall, this auditorium, and the brand new stage. And then Havan Kund, when you go out, you'll see this area. There is a fire crate, and lighting of fire and offering prayers to that is very important part of our rituals. So that was needed because it is a part of our wedding ceremonies. If you have attended any Hindu wedding ceremonies, you will know that there is a fire ceremony. So we needed that. And there's a balcony up there, and there's an audio-visual room to control mics and sound systems. And new facilities added 4 classrooms, an office, library, a lobby, and coat and shoe rack. And there were priest quarters as well. And at that time, we found a beautiful bronze relief. If you go to upstairs, you'll see of Lord Shiva. In 1991, this project was completed and was inaugurated on December 7, 1991. Then, October 22, 23, 24 in 1993, again, we celebrated that 10th anniversary. Remember, we established the deities in 1983, so we had a 10th anniversary. And I have a book that commemorated that. I saved these things. I feel very sentimental. And here is the picture of the groundbreaking in the back. And this is the relief I was talking about. It's a huge, beautiful bronze relief. And this is, you didn't get to see this because you had to come through that part. This is the big, front of the temple at that time. So, as I said, October 22, 23, and 24, it was 10th anniversary. And again, there was high hopes of how the temple will be in the year 2000. And as Padma said, I was the president at that time, and again, there were big plans. The vision was to build a bigger banquet hall, an auditorium big enough to meet the needs of a growing community. There would be a swimming pool, a gym, and some office spaces. Most importantly, it was a wish to build a spire, and we're still wishing it today. Dr. Murthy will tell you later on that is one of our hope and dream. And there also was hope to have a Montessori school. And this was a long time dream, but for one reason or the other, we could not have a school. Many churches have schools. We could not get going because one of the problem was at that time consideration of the safety of the children and other things. And also the food restriction is in the temple, we are all vegetarians, strict vegetarians. So the food that was brought in had to be vegetarian, and that may not be a possible successful school, but that was our thought in those days. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you that because we'll come to a point when it will make sense. And the idea was that library also be built, will be vastly expanded, and there will be a meditation room added. And the nature trail with flowers and garden beds would provide a serenity for the devotees. And why I'm saying this? Because some of these dreams have come true. Some of them have not. We don't have a swimming pool, but we have other things. Okay. Also, there was one time we were going to have a building complex for seniors like us, but we didn't get to that point yet. All right. So on November 14, 15, and 16, 2003, we celebrated the 20th year of the DT establishment, which is a big, important thing for us. And at that time, by this time, temple management started to explore again. We need to expand because the community has grown so much. And after much debate, and this went on and on and on, trust me. Surveys were taken. Finally, the decision was made to build a new structure adjacent to this present one. And the principal features of the new structure would reflect the desires and the priorities of the Bharatiya Temple members. The architecture is a fusion of North and South Indian styles. You know, there are distinct characteristics of these temples. And this is to better reflect the diversity of our community. We call it Bharatiya Temple. Bharatiya means Indian, and we come from all around India. And it's truly a very unifying place. We feel very proud of that. Not all the temples are like that, but our temple is that, unique, because we are here from all corners of India. And as we can see, the visions that we had in 1993 will be achieved. When you walk into that place, you'll see. And on June, I just found a little interesting thing here. On July 2005, finally when the decision was made that we will go ahead and have the expansion, the Troy, Michigan Planning Commission approved a proposed site plan for another large-scale expansion of the temple. The commission's decision is just the first hurdle that we had to cross because it is a significantly large construction, but it is a significant milestone for us. And on June 18, 2006, the ground was consecrated, and on October 15, 2006, the groundbreaking took place, and the actual construction started, correct me if I'm wrong, 9/20? Okay. 2000. And starting from June, coming up, as I told Lorraine, we are going to do the grand opening ceremony of our temple. It was supposed to be starting from the second week of June, June 12th, June 11th, but it was moved up because we have a dynamic speaker who's going to sing and speak about one of our religious scriptures. So we are very excited. We are expecting upwards of 1,000 people to attend. So we are very busy preparing for that. I was hoping to have many more members senior members of our congregation who could have been invaluable help in answering your questions if you had any about our history. But I'm sorry, you're stuck with me today. All right. I would like to tell you that our temple will have that big, the Montessori school. We started a Montessori school in 2006. We've gone through some bumps, but I'm proud to say it's still operating, and it is successful. We are able to conduct, how many children are there? 20. We were up to 30, but as you all know, the economy of Michigan, right? Many of our young couples, families moved out of this area, so we lost many students, but it is still going on. And the hall will be enormous. We will have beautiful banquet area, much, much larger than what we have now. So you will see all of these, all our visions, all our future dreams have come true. Now I'm going to tell you about a little bit our temple, how it operates. Okay, the temple is fully tax exempt and ecclesiastical nonprofit corporation since 1975. Okay. The organizers, as I said, they met to make a constitution, and the constitution decided, the bylaws and constitution committee decided there would be a board of trustees, and there will be 15 members. 12 members will be elected every year. 4 members will be elected for a 3-year term. So there is a stability, and those 12 members, once they gathered, they will elect 3 members from the congregation. And they had to be members of the temple, of long standing. So we have 15 people on our board of trustees, and board of trustees is the governing body, the most supreme governing body of the temple. All right? And every year, 4 people, I'd like to kind of show you, 4 people move down, and another new people are brought in. Okay? And then we have the Board of Trustees appoints the president and the president-elect. And the president-elect, also they appoint the treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, joint secretary, I think, joint treasurer and joint secretary. And then president in turn appoints or selects several committees. And mind you, these are all volunteer people. And it takes a whole lot of time of work. So it can take a place of the second job for you. So we have in our temple, I will go through some of the committees we have. We have the religious committee, which is the biggest committee of all and the most busy committee that oversees the religious programs, every Sunday's program, plus any of the special things that come up. For example, these new ones that is coming up. We have a committee called Bal Bharti, which Shama is was chair a few years back. That is our youth group, our children's group. Then we have a cultural committee which takes oversees different cultural program. We have education committee, and I know we had dance classes. We still have dance classes going on, our classical dance classes. We have music classes, we vocal and the percussion. All right, and we have information systems committee, the kitchen, and every Sunday people serve lunch. They donate lunch, and we serve that. And then, of course, the information, the flyers. And from 1976, we have been publishing a magazine. It's not monthly; it's a quarterly magazine called Chetna, and it is still being published from 1976 to this day. So we have a committee that takes care of that. Then we have a library committee, and we have a committee that does maintenance, membership. Padma was part of the membership. And then we have seniors committee, and Dr. Saini was chair of that committee for a long time. And of course, we are fortunate to have our office manager, and we have a secretary, and 2 other ladies assisting her. And
They're paid positions.
those are paid positions. And we have 2 priests. Those are paid positions. But everything else in this temple is strictly by volunteers, run by volunteers. So we have dedicated people. We're very thankful to have their services. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Balaram Murthy, who I call Dada, means my big brother. And he has been, I'm going to find that he's very modest. He didn't want to tell me anything about himself, but I made him. He holds a PhD in engineering from IIT. It is from Kharagpur, India. IIT is very famous. If anybody is in engineering, you will know it is almost like MIT. It's not almost, it is like MIT and better. Dr. Murthy, yeah, it is. It is. You know, what's his name? The big guy, Microsoft's big guy.
Oh, Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. He talks about it all the time.
Anecdote. Whenever bright Indian students cannot get admission in IIT, then they come to MIT.
He's bad. Balaramji was working for GM for 30 years, and he was the senior technical fellow. It's the senior most position in their R&D division. And he's a life fellow of EIEEE, okay, which is a very prestigious engineering association. And he's been here forever, longer than me. He's older than me, I think. He has been on the Long Range Planning Committee, which is a committee that is appointed directly by the Board of Trustees. And they are the ones who are in charge of building and expansion and maintenance of the temple. So he will fill you in on that. And at present, he's the chair of that committee. He's finishing things up. He's overseeing completion of this new building. He has served on the Board of Trustees many times. And he also is a very knowledgeable scholar on our Hindu religion. And he has taught in the Sunday congregation. He speaks many times. Just last Sunday, I hear him speak, and I was very, very impressed. And he has taught our Hindu heritage class, that is Sunday class for our youngsters. And he has, as I said, spoken to our congregation on several occasions. So I would like to welcome Dr. Balaram Murthy.
Let me all wish you the traditional way. It's called the Namaste. Namaha Te is Namaste. It means I'm trying to recognize the soul in you as the same as mine. Basically, that's what it is. We are all the same from the children of God, what we call. So that's what we look at as Namaste. I have 2 hats here, and maybe we can make it as a conversational as we go along, and see if you have any questions. We can entertain them as I speak. The 2 hats are, as Babiji said, my sister said here, that the one is the Long Range Planning Committee. That's what I'm heading last 2.5 years after my retirement from General Motors as a technical fellow. This is all I did, is to take care of that building. And hopefully by October of this year, we will have that inauguration done. That's a big task, and that's what I'm heading, and every day I'm here for that purpose. So that's the brick and mortar part of it. The second part of it is I was also involved in the religious committee right from the beginning, and we organized all the things which go on in the temple from time to time. I was one of the persons helping them. And so I have the religious aspect of it is my second hat. And of course, I'm not putting my third hat, which is my professional one, which I left it off. So November 2008, I retired from General Motors after spending about 30 years there, doing all these electric and hybrid electric vehicles. Those are the things which are the things nowadays. That's what I was working on, the future vehicles for General Motors, and when I retired. Okay, what they asked me to tell you is some of the unique features of our temple and our philosophy a little bit, because Hinduism is a little difficult to understand as compared to the other religions which you have. Generally either one prophet or one person to look upon who has organized the whole setup. Hinduism doesn't work that way. So that's why it's very difficult to understand. Although we all agree, we all have the same thing, that is, there is only one God. In fact, our basic texts which deal with all the religious activities, or they are coming down from what they call Vedas, and there are 4 of them. And the Vedas are basically revelations to the saints. All the revelations, they put it together, categorize them together. So that being the case, we take those principles and apply to day-to-day life, and all these temples have come up. So I just give you a brief picture of the uniqueness of the Hindu religion as is practiced here, the things which stand out as different from the churches or synagogues or mosques, whatever you have for the other religions. The first thing you see that there is what is called a Vigraharadhana. We pray the God as a person, a personal God. And when you say Vigraha, means in translation to English, it means idol, means it is in the image of something else, some divinity. In the image of divinity we have a God, and that's one uniqueness. We pray for so those pictures, for example, the 2 is called a Lakshmi Narayana. And the second unique feature is we have gods and we have goddesses. That is very unique. The female aspect is very much present in every divinity in whatever we do. That again you see, it's a unique feature here. So the third unique philosophy wise is Hindus believe in reincarnation. That means you will be born back again. And why are you born back? We can talk a little bit about it, but I can give you some. What I'll do is in a brief way take some 2-3 practical examples as we see them, and then say that, ask you to project your mind to say, look at something which is not easily comprehensible. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I hope we will succeed in getting you why we do all these things together. So Vigraharadhana, that means the idol worship as they call them, and several gods and goddesses. These are all the questions normally they ask, why. And then the third is reincarnation. That means you are born again, what's the reason? And that gives us what they call the law of karma. You must have heard the word karma used everywhere nowadays in all newspapers, etc. So we'll talk a little bit about that. It's the law of karma. That is the one which is unique to the philosophy of our Hinduism. So these are I would say, if we understand, get a feel for them, then I think we have done the job today. Okay. First of all, let me take this as an example. We see the sun every day, sun in the sky, and this is one normal question I ask in an interactive teaching of Hinduism. Let us say the sun takes off for a couple of years, takes vacation, it doesn't show up. What happens to us? There is nothing left. There are no plants, there are no animals, there are no human beings, nothing exists. So he provides all that is needed for something to sustain here, right? So in our philosophy, there are 2 main criteria we respect and pray that individual or whatever it is. One is a giver of knowledge and a giver of succor, like the sun, for example. Without him, there is nothing. So I'm supposed to pray to the sun, God's Son, every day, 3 times a day, the morning, afternoon, and evening, just before he goes. When he goes in the evening, we just pray, please do come back. As if, come back and give me help, sustain. Without you, I am not here. So when morning comes, we just pray him, my God, you came today, my day is done. We're all so happy when you see the sun rising, right? And sun setting, we do that in Florida, you can see both of them. So nice, beautiful place. So sun is the giver of all the things to us. Now, does the sun distinguish between who is the bad guy here and a good guy and say, well, I'm going to only shine on somebody else's house and not the other house? He doesn't care. He has no discrimination power. He just gives and gives and gives, right? Day in and day out, whether you like it or not. If we use him properly, you can get energy out of it. Simple, your solar energy, this energy, that energy. So many things going on in the world now. So now, but if you misuse it, then you pay for it. He has nothing to do with it. What is misuse? Suppose you're so much addicted to the sun and say, okay, I'm going to lie down on the Florida beaches for 3 months in the sun. What happens? You end up with a sunburn and maybe a skin cancer or something, and leads to the, right?
Burn to a crisp.
Right. So but sun has nothing to do with it. You can say, well, you can blame the sun, but he has not done any harm to you. He wanted to give you something good, but you didn't know how to use it, right? So this example I am giving you because in the same manner, this is something which we can see it every day happening. So if we can feel it, so sun is our God, one of them. And he's all the time shining, ever effulgent, eternal, as far as we are concerned. Because in the sense, there are theories that the whole cosmos might go back into a black hole and all that. If I put my physics hat, I can just talk a lot about them, but we don't do that. So assume that it is there. It is eternal, right? The sun is eternal. The God's qualities are eternal, and his qualities, he gives and gives and gives. And he does not distinguish from good and bad. He has no good and bad. There's no good place, bad place. He's going to, India is not good, so I'm not going to go there. America is good, I'm going to only shine here. No, he doesn't care. You take it any way you like it, and don't like it, don't use it. If you misuse it, you pay for it, but use it good and well. So the reason I'm bringing this is the God is only one. The God is defined in Vedas and all that is as cosmic consciousness. So now, where is that consciousness? We don't know where it is. But we all know, if I'm speaking here, I'm conscious. There is a consciousness working. If suppose the consciousness leaves me, what happens to me? I'm a dead body, just a material, right? Ready for either a cremation or a burial, whatever it is. So we know that there is a consciousness in us which is driving us, which is making us do whatever we are doing. But we can't see it. We can't see it. So that consciousness, is he really working with me or working me? Don't know. Yes and no. Just like the sun. He gives, he's there all the time with you. He is within you. Then we say there is a God within you. You are all God and consciousness. I have the same consciousness. So if I can see the God in every one of you and God in me too, then that's what the state we call it as liberation. So then we know that we have no more conflicts. There is no duality. That's what the word used. There is no duality. They're all same. Yeah, this shape is different. You look different. Your skin is different. My skin is different. I talk differently with a little accent. You talk different like accent, whatever. But there is absolutely no, the driving force within you is the same as the driving force within me. So that's what we call it as God. But how do we know how to understand where He is? How to, sun, we could do that, right, as an example, because we could see Him. But that's for the material development. Sun gives you that material development. But this Atma, we call it as God, is only one, is everywhere, all pervading, right? And He is there. Without Him, nothing happens. Why? Because if that consciousness leaves me, I am a dead man. It's no good. All my titles, everything is worthless, right? So this is what the paradox of all religions is. How to comprehend that God whom I don't know, but without Him, nothing moves. I can't move. I can't even lift my hand if I don't have that consciousness, right? So this is what the paradox is. So, having said that, I don't think it will take you too much into the God part of it. I will just make it simpler. So the second example I will give you is this reincarnation. Is another principle of Hinduism is we believe in cyclic processes in the universe. Everything is cyclic. Everything gets recycled. Now, how do you understand it? Take a plant. This is how our ancestors, when they got their revelations, when you say and quote it, this is how they did. When you have a clean mind and start taking one problem at a time, analyze it, challenge your mind, keep on analyzing, you get a revelation. That's what a revelation is all about, right? So, if you take a small plant, for example, a seed, take a seed. Can you see in the seed a plant there? You can't see anything there. If you ask me, it is just a bundle of proteins. That's about all. That's what even the biologists and all those people tell me too. But the seed, when you put in the right time, right place, good circumstances, put some water, use some heat, whatever, what happens? You get a tree. And what does the tree do? It grows up, generates some more seeds, and then dies. So whatever is giving birth here dies. It doesn't matter whether it is an animal, it's a bird, whether it is human beings or trees, whatever it is. Anything, fundamental principle is anything that is created, creates itself, ultimately has to dissolve into the same place. We'll all go into the same dirty earth. There's nothing, dirt, that's all we become. So this principle of and the tree cycles, what does the seed do then? All the seeds which came out of the tree, they become more trees, right, in time. So you can see that cyclic process which goes on. It gives rise to, grows for a while, sustains for a while, goes down, but leaves its impression. The impression is coded inside that seed. A seed of a rose plant will only give you a rose plant. It doesn't give you some other plant, right? So that means there is some magic going on in that. That example itself is good enough if you ponder over what is the beauty of this nature. Beauty of the nature is. So nature can pack all the knowledge, in other words, the huge amount of knowledge required for all the branches, all the trees, all the stems, the fruits coming out of them, everything, flowers, all that knowledge is packed up into that teeny weeny seed, right? And given right circumstances, it becomes a big tree. So you can see the magic of what happens. And what can you and I create? We can do nothing compared to what the nature can do that. And it does it effortlessly. There's nothing really, there's no big effort. It doesn't need a big laboratory like what I do for a living to do anything. So this is what the biggest thing is. So that drives us to think that the Indian philosophy believes that everything in this universe is cyclic. And more we look at from the physics point of view, nowadays it corroborates to that, because we say that even the galaxies, all of them, ultimately they all collapse, go into what they call a black hole. And the black hole, one day it just gives out infinite amount of energy. All this cosmos comes about. So this is a cyclic phenomena. Cyclic phenomena. So once you do that, you start now, just like how you extrapolated consciousness, which you are not seeing it, as God in all of us. Now you extrapolate this concept of cyclic nature to the birth and death. So what happens after you die? You're born. That's what we call it as reincarnation. So now, how you are born? Then the question comes, well, will I be born just like me now? Maybe you may not. That's where the law of karma comes. That's what they invented, our guys, to explain to us. You do all the good deeds in life, you will be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You know the saying? Silver spoon in the mouth. If you do all the good things, you'll be born as a silver spoon in the mouth. And if I do all the bad things in this life, then I get a plastic spoon if I'm lucky. Otherwise, maybe nothing, right? So this is what the karma philosophy is. So we believe in the philosophy that you are what you think and what you do. It is yours. Just like an example I gave you of the sun. You can use him to your benefit. You can put a nice plants all over in your house, grow fruits, vegetables, share with others, be a good person, good citizen. Nice. Or you can say, well, I hate the sun, I'm going to sit in my room and then watch the TV for 7/24. Be my guest, he doesn't care. And our actions also will not affect him too. See, this is the beauty of the God. Whatever we do, it does not affect the God too. But he keeps on giving whatever he needs to give. So I just want to take a few questions. I mean, these are the fundamental rules on which we do this. The third aspect which I want to touch upon is the Vigraha Aradhana. I mean, the idol worship. Why do you do that? If you're so nice, if you understood the God as consciousness everywhere, and you can see divinity in all of us, then all the creation of the God, why are you worried about doing this Vigraha? That's where our limitations come into picture. So now the God, as we say, is our Sanskrit name for him is Bhagavan. We call it Bhagavan. Means he's got 6 qualities which are needed for all of us. That's why we put all of them together into one basket and say he's Bhagavan. And what are the qualities for life to sustain? We need the knowledge foremost. Knowledge to do anything. So knowledge is first. Second is you need wealth. Wealth of doing things, wealth of money itself or whatever form when you say wealth. Then third is you need the power to do it. If you've got all of them but you don't have power, there's nothing you can do. Then you need a strength to do them. And then you need to have also an organizing capacity to do that. So like a whaler, we call that. That's a organizer, whatever, leader, leading qualities. Plus, you need to have that effulgence, means that spark of divinity in you. Otherwise, you will not be there. So these are the 6 qualities which we need for sustaining life here. So we put all the 6 of them and call it as a Bhagavan, right? Now, this Bhagavan, again, I can't put who has got all these 6. To imagine, I don't know. So what you do is, when you say the idols, what they mean is, you assign a certain portfolio to each one of these qualities. So we say jnana, or the knowledge, is assigned to one God. We call it Lord Shiva. And wealth we assign to Lord Narayana. We say Lord Narayana. And similarly for strength we say Vigneshwara. They call the Vinayaka. We'll see some of the idols also. I think he's got some pictures here too.
We have.
So these are all the pictures. These are all the gods we are going to put in the new temple. These are the same gods we have here also. So you basically what you do is initially as a layman, not understanding what I am doing, I just born, I need to have, it's like a model, a role model. How do you go about in life, in real life? And say, for example, the mother is the real role model for a small baby. Till the baby grows up to about 5-6-year-old, there is nothing the mother cannot do. You're all mothers, some of you, then you know what it means like motherhood. So that is a divinity too. So we put as a motherhood and we call it as a mother goddess. And without mother, tell me, is there any chance for any baby to survive in this world? The mother is the first person who teaches, who shares the knowledge with the child. Mother is the first giver of knowledge. So that's why when we see a mother, we do what they call Sastanga Namaskar. We actually pray, touch her feet. Touch her feet. So that's our culture. So anybody who gives knowledge, whether it is a mother, father, or teacher, like that, it goes on the list. So we respect them because they're all givers of knowledge. And knowledge is the fundamental thing to survive, right? And we say that Jnana is the Lord Shiva. So in the left bottom corner is what we call is Ganesha. And we'll not go into the mythology of it. I'm just giving you the broader picture. So when you go, you want to take each one of them, what is the mythology behind and why this shape and what is he having in his arms, feet and all that. There are all a lot of religious symbols involved in them. So we will not have, for lack of time, to explain them. But the Ganesha represents the strength part of it. And then the top, if you go to the left corner, and the first two of them on the left side in the top and middle, they are a part of the Vishnu. So this Vishnu is one more thing I just want to briefly mention, is the wealth giver. It depends on the time and place too. So we divide all our devolution also into 4 different yugas, we call them, huge span of time. But each span of time we have one divinity given as a name for that. So we have those deities also put in there, but they all represent the Vishnu or the wealth and giver. He along with his consort. All of them have their consorts. No god goes without a goddess. So why? You see this. For anything to happen, if you have just a consciousness alone, you could do nothing. You need to have the body, right? And where does the body come from? From the nature. All the elements. You got the same elements as what you have in the nature. So that aspect is what is called the Shakti. And that's the goddess which you see on the right side, the right top side. So like that we keep on, scaling the mind. But I'm giving you philosophical outlook which you can appreciate. But the real meaning of all of them is they have a lot of significance, each one of them. So that's what we have.